We are so thrilled to have you this morning. And our goal today is to help you win your games today on your way to your championship. And joining me today, as always, the wonderfully and talented Sean Teague. Sean, how are you doing today, buddy?
And I am doing pretty decent. Halfway point of the season here. I got plenty of teams on that playoff track. A few struggling. Hopefully, we can get that turned around this week.
Yeah, I expect all your teams to make the playoffs, Sean. They usually do. So you got to get them back on track, man. Now,
Yeah,
unfortunately, our other normal host, Michael Sicoli, is out on special assignment, so he can't join us today. So special, I can't even talk about what it is. No, it's his other job, and completely understandable. Um, and we are so glad to have y'all in. As always, Fantasy Breakout gets in early. Now, one of the things I want to share with our audience here is that we won't be able to answer all the questions as we have done in the past. The show has grown in popularity, which is fantastic. So thank you to the audience for joining us. But we've had so many we're unable to answer every single question. So what we put in place is the super chat capability. So you can click on the super chat link and make a donation to us, and that will bump you to the top of the line. And we will make sure to answer your question if you get it in before 10 minutes before the top of the hour. Now, we'll repeat this a little bit later because we will have some people we know don't always join right at the beginning of the show. But that'll be the plan to work through things today. Also, want to put a plug in for my IDP advice show, the IDP Plus advice show that is published now on Wednesday mornings. We cover a lot of great things in there, including snaps and playing time, playing alignments on defense, injuries, potential waiver pickups, people whose playing time is adjusted, all kind of fun stuff. So, encourage you to join for that as well. And with that, Sean, we were talking a little bit about before the show started, and I'm going to let you pronounce his name. So, Cleveland Browns, Jordan Hicks is out. JOK was put on injured reserve. So there's a gentleman by the name with the initials MD. Doesn't mean medical doctor, but I understand he can deliver licks that can maybe put people in the hospital. You want to say his name for me, because I keep on butchering it, and talk a little bit about him today?
I will do my best. And he has been a bit of a turnover machine, I believe, in college as well. And that's Moabu Diabate.
Oh, that was beautiful, man. That was well done. His family would be proud. So,
I
how
hope.
do you feel about putting him in your lineup this week?
If there's no other options right now, he's the best of a bad scenario there in Cleveland. He's the last man standing, and he has been productive when he has been put in. He does have some. I believe he's got a safety, possibly a sack on the season already. He's definitely an option, and I feel like he's a good option this week.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. All right, we do have some questions starting to come in here, so we'll get started. And as always, and for our listening audience, Fantasy Breakout is the man. He is always the first one. He gets in the comments and his questions before the show even starts, puts him on the top of the line, and he ends up getting his questions as a result. And he's already used Will Anderson, so let's go with his first question here, which is EJ Speed a set it and forget it, or play one of Dodson, Edgerrin Cooper, a Titans linebacker, which would be Murray or Baker or Gibbons? And I purposely mentioned all three of them, or Josie Jewell. Last time Flacco was starting quarterback, the defense wasn't on the field as much, and Speed's tackles dipped. So, Sean, I'll let you start first with this one.
Yeah, I really like EJ Speed this week. It's a really good matchup. Just because Joe Flacco was on the field more doesn't mean he will this game. This Vikings defense can very well put him in his place and run the ball. So I'm okay with Speed. If I were to pivot, Josie Jewell would be my next option here.
Interesting. Yeah, so Cooper, unfortunately, is not even starting right now, so I don't think you go with him.
Yeah,
We
he's
saw
out.
the impact of Dodson being moved to the second linebacker spot with the acquisition of Ernest Jones, who played 100% of the snaps in that first week. And Now, Seattle played a significant number of snaps as well, which boosted up Jones' stats, but in general, it hurt Dodson. I don't trust the Titans linebacker group at all either this week. So Jewell would be my second choice. But um, to the point that Fantasy Breakout is making, early in the year, in particular when Anthony Richardson was the quarterback for the Colts, they were so bad. Their defense played 90 snaps one week, 80 snaps another week, 70 something another week. So
Insane numbers.
it was which was driving up the defensive stats. But even with all that and with Flacco back, I think they'll play enough stats. I think snaps they'll play closer to the typical 65, 66, and speed will be just fine in the lineup. Better than all these other options for sure. Okay, that's how we do it here, folks. Next question, fantasy breakout. And for defensive back, Buda Baker all the way right now. Someone made a call on Buda Baker last week and was very pleased with how Buda Baker performed. And just for context, what do we think about Duggar against Tennessee, Lake if Curl is out, and Bynum? So, Sean, I won't brag about my Buda Baker call last week being the right call, but what do you think for the question this week, sir?
That was very humble of you to not acknowledge how good you were last week. Buda Baker has been on fire. I would have a hard time sitting him. He's got another good matchup this week. Duggar, look, this Tennessee team is awful. They've been selling pieces off, trading people away. I don't expect them to be on the field a whole lot. I really don't. Their offense is banged up. That is still in, the pieces that are still there are injured. So I expect the Patriots to jump out to a lead and just pound this ball. So Duggar's out for me. Lake and Curl. We have seen them swap, their assignments, I guess, where early in the year, Lake was the guy up near the line of scrimmage. That is now switched. It is now Curl. He is questionable still. Has me a little nervous, but if he is out, I don't know if that means Lake will jump up or if Cameron Kitchens will come in and take that spot. They may
Well,
do that. Go ahead.
when Curl was out last week, it appeared that Kitchens moved into the deeper role and Lake did move a little bit closer.
Okay.
So, but that was for a limited number of snaps, so you don't know how much that'll play in. And Bynum once again only played 83% of the snaps, I believe it was last week. He's been playing in the low to mid 80s compared to last year when him and Metellus and Harrison Smith all were playing close to 99, 100% of the snaps. So Bynum makes me nervous as well. Agree with you
Sure.
on Duggar. And surprisingly, I saw Duggar listed. I think it was Diana Rossini on the Athletic who mentioned that Duggar is actually on the trade block by the Patriots along with Godshaw. So that makes me nervous. If he is questionable, will he even play? So I would stay away from all those other guys. Stick with Buddha on this one. You agree, Sean? We align on
Yeah,
that?
I think that's the right way to go. Too many unknowns with these other guys for sure.
All right, terrific. All right, Fantasy Sports is in, another regular who comes in usually pretty early. Which three linebackers should I start? Henley, Oluokun, Zaire, or Josie Jewell?
All
And so
right.
while you're pondering that, I'll just mention one thing. And Henley last week actually played 100% of the snaps for the Chargers. Perryman was down in the 30s, and Colson was like around either 21% or 14%. I can't remember which one, but extremely low. So that three-headed rotation monster of the Chargers changed significantly with Henley getting 100% as well. So with that, does that influence your answer, Sean?
It definitely makes me reconsider it a bit. And the matchup against the Browns has been a hot one all season. Uh,
And and then the other thing too, Oluokun came back, but he didn't get 100% of the snaps. He was in that rotation with Miller and with Devin Lloyd. Devin Lloyd was down to 51% of the snaps, which, man, that's another thing, folks. If y'all got Lloyd in your lineup, y'all got to stay away from that right now. Ventrell was at 56 and Oluokun was at 91%.
Such a weird rotation going on out there. So Jewel and Franklin are my two automatics here. I trust both of them, and it comes down to Aluakan and Henley. The matchup says Henley. Playing time says Henley. But I think I'm
But
going to go with my playmaker here and take Aluakan.
I am too. I'm not willing to take that chance on Henley quite yet. It could, it could be that it wasn't. There was some unreported nicks and injuries with those other two players that kept him out. I'd rather go with Oluwakan, the beast. And now, if he only plays 100% again this week, then different discussion for next week. For now, I'm playing the last three on this list. I'm with you as well. Okay, so fantasy sports also comes in and asks which three safeties to start between Hamilton, Lake, and Newbern. I would start all three you have on the list. Some tells me you meant to have a fourth one on the list. And so fantasy sports, if you have a fourth one, we'll look for it in later in the questions, or maybe you only needed two or one, not sure, but let us know, clarify on that one for us. Fantasy sports also asking here, which three wide receivers to start? Devontae, Olave, Zay, Waddle, and Hopkins. Now, one of the things that came out this morning related to Deontay Johnson is one reporter got told he played 15 to 20 snaps. Another reporter got told he played 10 to 15 snaps. Regardless, he's not going to play a lot of snaps. So maybe that doesn't have a huge impact on Zay Flowers. So with that context, Sean, what are some of your thoughts here?
Well, having Derek Carr back really makes me want to throw Olave in there. Terrible Panthers defense, terrible Panthers team altogether. Devontae Smith has the ability to go off at any time to get a touchdown, so I like him as well. I'm really torn between Flowers and Waddle here.
So Hopkins is out for you right now.
Hopkins is out for me. Yeah, I'm going to have to see him play more before I'm ready to just throw him in. And since he does have better options here, this is fine to bench here. I'm leaning Waddle because I am worried about this Denver defense.
For all the name recognition that Waddle has, for me the production just hasn't been there. So I'm agree with you on Devontae and Olave, but I have to admit, okay, and I have to apologize to our audience. Last week I was very worried about that Zay Flowers ankle injury. Yeah, I admitted that I wasn't perfect last week. I did make a mistake, and Zay Flowers was one of those two that I made. And he looked healthy as can be. I'm not worried about Deontay Johnson. I'm going to actually roll with Zay Flowers over Waddle on this one. So two we agreed on and two we split on fantasy sports. So roll from there, and good luck with your selection. But we're definitely taking out Hopkins. Okay, fantasy breakout. Going to the offense for a couple of questions here. Pick one wide receiver, half PPR. He calls this his wide receiver 2. Okay, got it. So Amari Cooper, Hopkins, who we just talked about. I'm assuming that's Christian Watson instead of Justin, and then Mr. Coker from the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, I'm not ready to throw Coker in there at all. This is tough. I think Watson has the biggest ceiling here.
Watson does have the ceiling. That is a fair point. But Cooper, there was the wrist injury. He was limited all week. He didn't run many more snaps in week 2 than he did in week 1. We saw Keon Coleman start to emerge. Yeah. I'm not feeling warm and fuzzy about Cooper or Hopkins either, though. Wow, this is tough. So the Packers have the Lions secondary, which is really struggling and has no pass rush whatsoever.
Could be a shootout.
And it very well could be a shootout as well. So on this one, I think I'm taking the chance on Watson on this one.
That's where I'm at. Hopkins was my second choice here. Again, I don't know what his role is going to be, if they're really going to give him 100% and just turn him loose, or would they even need to? That's the other thing.
Coker's actually so we'll go with Watson as our recommendation. Coker's my number 2, and here's why. Okay, Deontay Johnson's gone. but it's more the
Right.
Saints secondary that is just decimated with injuries. Adebo's on injured reserve. Lattimore's out with his hamstring problem. Kool-Aid McKinstry is also out with a hamstring problem. So three of their top four cornerbacks are out. And then Rico Payton, who was their number five cornerback, also has a back issue, and he's questionable, and I don't expect him to play. They signed one person to their active roster. They called up two more defensive backs as part from the practice squad for the game. So that leaves Alontae Taylor and a bunch of guys. So if I was taking a chance on anyone outside of Watson, it'd be Coker, but I don't trust Bryce Young enough. So I'm going Watson, and I'm leaving Dowdle in the flex, particularly after not Emmett Smith. Wow, Ezekiel Elliott didn't even make the trip as well. Yeah, boy, I'm showing my age now, huh? Yeah,
I've heard of him.
yeah. So I do Rico Dowdle in the flex and Watson in the number two spot. Sean, you in line?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I, Dalvin Cook didn't look like the full answer either, so I expect Dowdle to still get plenty of snaps.
All righty. Let's go to our next one with Ant Live. Coleman, McConkey, and Shakir needs one. He's got two Bills on the list and a
Mm.
Charger on the list. So
This
we got
is a fun
Bills
one here.
against Miami, and you have your Jalen Ramsey and your Fuller on the outside, who are not having necessarily great years.
I just wonder how much they'll need that passing game with the way Miami's giving up to running backs. It may not be much of a factor. Maybe looking at just a possible long bomb for Coleman, and if it's PPR, I mean Shakir could rack up some passes. McConkey is probably my favorite of these three. I like his potential the most, and his connection with Justin Herbert has been really good, especially as of late. I believe he got 2 touchdowns last week.
Yeah, he did. And how do you feel with him though against that Cleveland secondary?
I have no problems with it. Yeah, I think he'll do just fine. Cleveland's actually been giving up a lot of points to receivers. Um, who somebody came back? DJ Chark. He doesn't scare me off McConkey at all. Quinn
Yeah, they put
Johnson.
Brendan Rice on IR and activated DJ Chark from IR. But you're
Yeah,
right, it doesn't. Quentin Johnson's also supposed to play again this week.
he doesn't scare me off McConkey either. Like I said, that connection with McConkey and Herbert looks legitimate right now. Looks really good. I feel like I could trust him more than I could the others right now.
Okay,
So I really don't know how this Miami game is going to go.
so you're leaning McConkey.
Mhm.
I will support you on McConkey, and I'm debating if I was going to go number two on this one. Would it be Coleman or Shakir?
At
Coleman,
PPR, I like Shakir.
PPR Shakir. Okay, non-PPR, you going Coleman.
I think so.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Harry Brooks up to bat. Welcome back, Harry. Love seeing you. And since you've been joining us, should I drop Newman or Lake for Jalen Thompson, Javon Bullard, or Evan Williams? I'll help with part of the question. Williams is ruled out for today, so I'm certainly not doing it for today in particular. But if you get signs for maybe next week that Bullard is going to be active, I'm definitely interested in Williams. But with him out, he's off the list for now.
So Williams had replaced Bullard in the lineup where they had moved, I think, Bullard to slot. Is that right?
Strictly slot. That is correct.
So that's not a stable option going forward for me.
Right.
So we're looking at Thompson as a potential pickup, is how I'm saying this. I like
That is,
Thompson. He's had some really good games. Newman and Lake have been really solid too, though.
yeah. Thompson has been playing in the box quite a bit, actually, but he's been very inefficient on the tackle side. Last week was his first really big tackle game. So did he figure it out? Even if he did, boy, it's hard for me to drop Newburn or Lake right now as well.
Right. I think you
So
stick with what you have.
I agree. I'd stick with what you have and keep an eye. Now, if Evan Williams comes back, and if Lake ends up playing more of that deep safety role, that's probably where I'm looking to do the flip.
Sure.
All right. Austin Gill. I think Austin might be new to us, or I might be just drawing a blank because I am old, but DJ Moore or Lad McConkey. So our second Lad McConkey question of the day.
I like both these guys. I think DJ Moore. I think Ladd does have the better matchup on paper.
I don't know if I agree with DJ Moore against that Arizona team. I have to admit, on this one, I'm leaning DJ Moore.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So what? Caleb Williams had 3 great games in a row before the stinker he laid against the Commanders last week, but those were pretty weak defenses that he had done them against. And Arizona does not have a strong secondary. So this is where I'm going to take my gamble and play DJ Moore. Now, if if the Bears were playing the, say, Chiefs, for example, even with some of the cornerback injuries they have, I would not be playing DJ Moore. I'd go with Ladd, but I do like DJ Moore today on this one over Ladd.
My concern is the Bears being able to run all over this Cardinals defense. I think this is what this game comes down to. I think it's a heavy run game, a heavy run day for the Bears. Just because the Cardinals have been unable to stop the run effectively. So I'm worried that DJ Moore doesn't get enough opportunities. But he's still DJ Moore, and you took him high for a reason.
Yeah, and it's also one of those things that when it's this close, I lean towards playing my stud, and DJ Moore is more of the stud.
Sure. I'll go with that.
All right. Okay, cool. Thank you. Ant Live also with another question here, which is DeForest Buckner or Keyshawn, or excuse me, is
Keon.
Keon White with the New England Patriots. Thank you. 2 really good choices. White got off to a hot start the year, slowed down a little bit. Then last week had a very good game. And then DeForest Buckner came back off of IR, was very productive. How you feel on this one, Sean?
DeForest Buckner is the top defensive tackle in fantasy. However, Keon White is playing the Titans, the worst offensive line I see every week. I could see Keon White going off against Tennessee.
Well, I could see DeForest Buckner being lined up over Ed Ingram, unfortunately from my beloved LSU Tigers, who is one of the worst rated offensive guards, according to PFF, in the whole league. And then Reisner, I believe, also just got put on IR. So there's no substitution opportunity there. So I'm going with the stud on this one. I don't disagree with you on White. I think he'll have a very good game as well. I think sometimes we're picking, I'll use the term, we're picking another cream of the crap kind of thing. I think we have cream and cream here. And in that case, I'm going to go with the top stud. I'm going to go with Buckner.
Yeah, I have a hard time sitting Buckner.
Yeah.
However, if you have Keon White, that's the one of the few times this week I think you could start somebody over Buckner.
Hard to argue that one. All right, so just as a reminder, folks, we're 24 minutes in. Thanks for those that have joined us in progress here. So we're going to try and get to every question that we get up to about 10 minutes before the hour. However, we will go longer, particularly if people use the super chat option, and we'll be monitoring for those super chat options, and we will get those in and we will get those answers. So take advantage of those. I also want to put a plug in for the IDP Plus advice show that I'm doing that comes out on Wednesday mornings. You're going to get a lot of great info on that. And not to mention, folks, IDP Plus, we've got great articles. We've got great tools. We've got rankings. Some of the tools we have include the snap count tool, which is awesome for using, particularly for both offense and IDP. Team fantasy points allowed by position. Weekly fantasy finishes across offense and defense, and then by position. We have an injury tracker. So many, many great stuff. And not to mention, by the way, our IDP Plus YouTube channel for betting, so IDP Plus Bets, which is winning people a lot of money, particularly on the IDP side. The While they might be good on the offensive side, the defensive side, the DraftKings and FanDuels and so forth of the world aren't as good as setting those lines, which is making people a lot of money, and it's paying for people's subscriptions. So encourage you all to take advantage of that. All righty. Let's go back to Harry Brooks here. Harry says, how do you rank these linebackers for this week and rest of season? Jewell, Hanley, Diabate, and Ellis.
There you go.
Getting closer at it. Okay, so let's rank them for this week first. Sean, anyone jumps to the top or to the bottom for you to start?
So if we're just doing this week, I'm actually okay with the order he has them in. I don't mind Diabate being behind Henley, although I would probably switch the two. It's close. Jules number one for me here. Ellis, I like his floor, but that's about all he offers is a solid floor.
That's right. I am with you, except I am flipping for this week. The two in the middle, I am actually flipping. I would put Hanley third, Diabate second. I just think
Sure.
that there's just be too much opportunity there, and Diabate has shown to get a couple of points also from a couple of pass defenses and things along those lines for those leagues. So I'm flipping those two just slightly, but I agree with you, Jewell being first.
Rest of season, Jules still top for me as long as he's healthy. Then it becomes a little cloudy for me.
Yeah. So
Diabate is an injury replacement for now. If
yeah,
Hicks comes back, where does he fit in? JOK comes back from IR later in the year, where does he fit in? That unknown worries me and probably pushes him towards the end of this
I
list.
I would agree with you as well. On rest of season though, right now, until I see Hanley playing 100% of the snaps for the second week in a row, I am going to go Jewell, Ellis, Hanley, and Diabate in that order.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. We hope we helped you out, Harry. And okay, this may be a new one. I don't rem Oh, no, I think he did ask us a question last week, but Pachuco TTV, Brian Robinson Jr. or Mr. Hopkins of the Chiefs in his second week there?
This one
I'm
is
assuming this
easy.
is for a flex position. Go ahead.
This
Yes.
is easy. Brian Robson Jr. has been declared inactive.
Oh, he has been declared inactive. That's a little bit of a surprise because it was expected he was going to play.
Yep.
That's
Inactive.
He's definitely inactive. Okay, that great hot off the press info. There is your answer. Go with Hopkins. And by the way, for those Eckler owners out there, and there's probably between
Yep.
injuries and a couple of bye weeks, I'm happy to put Eckler in my lineup with Robinson being out this week for sure. All right, Cole Moss. Cole Moss says, needs a running back and a flex. I need to choose between Chase Brown, Jacobs, Chuba, and Puka. It is a full PPR. Now let's see. Puka plays in the late window. Jacobs
And
plays in the late window. Chuba and Chase are in the
early.
early window.
Yeah.
So my initial reaction was to play Jacobs and Puka out of this. But then he's got the risk of he may not have anybody else to put into the lineup if Puka ends up being inactive. Now he's supposed to play, but Brian Robinson Jr. was supposed to play, and just as you pointed out, Sean, he was inactive.
I'm worried about Puka. We talked about this last week with him being limited all week, and then they were playing him Thursday night. I was worried about re-injury. I don't think he was re-injured in the game. I think it was practice.
It was in practice. That's correct.
It still worries him because it tells me his body's still not right. So I am nervous. I really am, and he's the last guy on this list as far as playing time goes, game time. So
And so while you're
I'm kind of pushing him out.
Yes, and so while you're contemplating that too, if Cole had a extra spot on his bench where he could drop someone and then he could pick up one of the Rams wide receivers off the waiver wire, maybe that might be an option. So if Demarcus Robinson's out there, he would clearly get playing time. So maybe you could do some along those lines. But you can't Tyler Johnson and Jordan Whittington. It's not clear which one will potentially play in that Puka role if Puka doesn't play. So it depends on your risk tolerance, Cole. I'm worried about Puka playing. I know that, or even if he does play, him potentially re-injuring it. So are we aligned on Josh Jacobs as his running back first, and then we help him with flex there?
I think so. It's a tough matchup. Jordan Love is hurt as well, so I expect them to lean heavy on Jacobs if they can, unless the game gets too far ahead. But he's still a reception option for them, checkdowns and whatnot. So yeah, Jacobs is my top guy here at running
Now,
back.
now Bryce Young, Chuba's numbers with Bryce Young at quarterback have been pretty hideous. They've been great with Andy Dalton, but it's the Saints defense who's been like Swiss cheese the last several weeks. So right now, and of course, Zach Moss was rolled out, so Chase Brown should have the whole backfield to himself.
That's where I'm leaning for my flex, Chase Brown.
Yep.
Because of the Zach Moss being out, the Raiders defense also has struggled against running backs.
And there's a
I don't
chance
trust.
Spillane is out as well.
Right, right. That's another unknown that's really bothered me this week. Yeah, Chase Brown, Josh Jacobs. Final answer, locking it in.
There it is. We're doubly aligned on that. Okay, Pachuco TV came back and said, okay, basically he had forgot to type in Ridley, but we know Robinson Jr. is out, so now it's down to Hopkins and Ridley. Ridley had a great game last week, finally. I think I'm leaning Ridley in this one over Hopkins.
Yeah, yeah. He's the only healthy option on the Titans, and he's not super healthy, but yeah, he's got a full time role locked in for sure, and I expect them to be behind. They're going to be throwing. It's Ridley.
Okay, Ridley it is. Okay, moving on. Wow, we're at the halfway point. So, Sean, for our audience, we're going to try and multitask here and keep an eye on other actives in inactives at this point in time. And it doesn't look like Trevon Diggs is supposed to play. And look, Pacheco may be back by month's end, so I'm sure we'll get some questions about Kareem Hunt in future weeks versus Pacheco. Okay, coming on, fantasy sports clarified here. So he meant to ask which two safeties between Hamilton, Newman, and Lake, with curl and without curl. With or without curl, I think I'm still going Hamilton and Newman. What are you thinking, Sean?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Hamilton, he's picking up. He's starting to get used around a little bit more. This should be a fun game with Denver because I really don't know what to expect here. Denver can shut down good teams and find ways to win. So I think Hamilton's going to have to be used in some funny ways here. Probably get some sacks against a young quarterback who likes to run and inexperience. I expect him to pop off this week again. And Newman, I like Newman this week more than Lake.
Okay, I am aligned with you. And for the record, you know how hard it is to predict interceptions because interceptions are so fluky, right?
He had it.
But somebody on this show who's wearing a yellow Kings Classic shirt called out that Hamilton was going to get an interception. He put himself on the line, and freaking Hamilton dropped it. Oh, okay.
Did get the sack though.
So I did not take to X in I just kept that conversation private with you and our usual other host, Michael Sokoli. But I was very frustrated on Hamilton because of that special call out I had done. But so fantasy sports, your answer is Hamilton and Newman for this week. All right, Mark Maloney is asking. Welcome back, Mark. Is asking, do we go Pollard or Tyrone Tracy in a half PPR?
This was
Tracy
tough.
against the improving Washington defense, and Pollard not that healthy against this New England. defense, which has not been that fantastic either.
No. Uh, this was really a coin flip for me. As Pollard has been productive, and they are going to be behind. I do expect some dump downs. Um, but I really like Tyrone Tracy. I think he's a future great pick. Uh,
He he
man,
looked Tracy looked phenomenal in
I
that
like
Monday
Tracy.
night game. He looked
He's
really, really good. He
every
looked
game I've
explosive,
watched. He looks explosive. He reads well. He has patience. He's a really good running back. I really like him. I'm leaning
considering
Tracy.
he yeah, considering he's just been playing running back for a short period of time. He was a former wide receiver in
Right.
college just his last year. So that means he can certainly catch the ball out of the backfield as well. Pollard's injury seems to be worse. And if they're not winning, they also called up Joshua Kelly, or they signed him actually to the 53 with Tajay Spears going out. I'm just concerned about Pollard's health here. Of course, I was wrong on Zay Flowers last week. I got to be honest, but Tracy looks so good. I'm rolling with Tracy against the Commanders on this one, so I think we're aligned there, Mark, for you. And then he goes Love or Kyler at the quarterback position. So the Detroit secondary, which certainly can be thrown at, but with an injured Jordan Love, versus Kyler Murray and the Chicago defense that will probably be without in the secondary Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker. And looks like they won't have Montez Sweat. We'll see that here shortly. So the pass rush for the Bears should be limited.
Uh, I'm basically going with Kyler's run ability versus how healthy is Jordan Love.
So,
I'm going to go with the healthy guy here. I'm taking Kyler.
okay, you got me thinking on this one. Kyler. I will go with Kyler as well. There's once again, I've become too injury sensitive and all, but a groin injury on a quarterback, it feels like one pass rush that chases him and he hurts that groin some more, and he could potentially be out of the game as well. So even against the Detroit team, and I do expect it to be a high scoring game, but I think I'm gonna lean Kyler. I think I'm gonna go with you on that one. Okay.
All right, Ricky, we have a super chat.
All right. Go ahead and read it for us. Thank you, sir.
All right. There it is. Do we start Jared Goff against Green Bay? That's
Okay,
all.
so the concern is probably that Goff is playing outdoors for the first time this year, and Goff has tended to struggle on the outside. Green Bay's secondary is very injured, and including Jair Alexander is at risk of also being out. So, are you willing to start Goff in this situation?
Yeah, part of that depends on what my other option is. Um, Goff has been pretty solid, pretty productive, and if I don't have a better option, then yes, I'm starting Goff. I'm expecting a high scoring game here. Uh, Xavier McKinney's probably going to get an interception, which that's what he does. But I feel like Goff's still going to get you 2, 3 touchdowns.
Okay, so um, I'm thinking this one through potentially since the card shop used a super chat. I'm just thinking about a little bit more here. Haven't heard any weather issues in Green Bay other than it being a little bit cooler at this point in time.
Right.
With the banged up secondary, I'm going to play Goff. Absolutely. Now, the card shop, here's the other thing. We'll try and keep an eye out for it, but let us know what your other option is besides Goff. And if you let us know, we'll come back to that question and we'll make sure and give you an answer on Goff versus who. Okay. But right now, strictly Goff against Green Bay, we're comfortable doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing scared me off right now. He's been on fire all season. He looks like one of the better quarterbacks of the league, which, a few years ago, we would not have said that at all. He's really grown into this team, and it's been a fun growth to watch.
Yeah, and he's in mind meld with his offensive coordinator and his head coach, and it's just a great combination. And not concerned about Jamison Williamson not being there
Jamison
at all.
Williams didn't hurt them a bit, maybe
Yeah.
even helped them. I don't know.
Good point. All right, sit one between Brian Thomas Jr., Cortland Sutton, and DeAndre Hopkins.
Um, you can't make me hate Brian Thomas Jr. I know he's banged up, but his potential is fantastic. He's been such a great rookie to watch. His growth, production has been fantastic this year. So if they say he's good enough to play, I'm firing him up. So Sutton and D Hop. This one's hard.
I'm
I don't like. Go ahead.
I'm actually going with the first two on this one. And here's the thing: Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU. Always got to get
Mm-hmm.
that in. He is questionable. Now he's expected to play, but once again, the same thing happened with Brian Robinson Jr. So I'd probably have BTJ and Sutton in my lineup, and then if BTJ is inactive, then you can pivot back to Hopkins as the Monday night game.
Sure.
That's how I'd probably play it.
I like
And wow,
Sutton's potential higher than D Hop's anyway. Um, it's
I agree.
it's not a great matchup, but I feel he will get more opportunities than D Hop will.
Okay. And fantasy sports, and thank you. And folks, feel free to put these into the chats to help us out here as we're trying to answer everyone's questions and all, and trying to keep up with inactives. Amari Cooper being inactive, that was a question earlier, and we actually we did
We were
it did
expecting.
influence our decision because we were worried about Cooper and what he was really going to contribute anyway. So fantasy
Yeah.
sports, thanks for calling that out. I don't think it changes our answer from earlier because we were thinking along those lines that Cooper wasn't going to make a major contribution today. Okay.
Robert Spillane is healthy. He
Robert
is
Spillane
playing,
is healthy. Okay.
or he is playing. So that's one of them I've had an eye on all day. So I'm sure there are
Now,
others out there.
Now we have about 18 minutes to the top of the hour, folks. So if you want to make sure you get your question answered, please use the super chat formula, and we will get to every super chat question, and then we'll get to as many of the others as we can. While we love to give our context and all, as we start getting later in the show as well, we'll give a little bit less context on some of these questions to get to as many as we can. But we can't guarantee if they come in too late or without the super chat. Okay, Brandon Gregory asking, Khalil Shakir, Romeo Dobbs, or Wandale Robinson at the flex?
Oh boy. If it's PPR, I think Wandale Robinson's the guy to go with here. He's the guy he's getting plenty of passes. Not a lot of yards. 8 catches, 50 yards. I mean, that's
He is such a floor play on this one, though. I have to admit, for me, Brandon, sorry, he would be last for me. And he's first for Sean. Sean, who would you have next then? I like
really
Dobbs against this
I
Lions
like Dobbs
secondary.
too.
I really like Dobbs
Uh,
against this Lions secondary.
that's also my second pick. Shakir, I'm just worried about game script over there on that, and then the Dolphins secondary being a little stouter there. Like I say, PPR, I feel like even though I like Dobbs, I only like him for 3-4 catches, probably a touchdown. Whereas
Yeah.
PPR, Robinson's going to give me my floor, Dobbs for my ceiling, Shakir. I don't know. Shakir might
Notice,
be right there too. Now that I think about it,
I think Malik Neighbors is going to be a squeaky wheel get grease this week, and then they've
I
been
think so.
using Slayton a lot more. So I'm worried about
It's
Robinson. I
true.
think instead of 850, it's more like 5 and 35 kind of thing. So
Okay.
Brandon, if you have a floor play that you're interested in, go Wandale. If you're looking for more upside, I think we're both leaning towards Dobbs.
And I'll apologize for not thinking more of Shakir. I was actually thinking of Keon Coleman when I read that. So Shakir is another PPR guy that I would take.
So you would do Shakir over
I would
Dobbs?
I would take Shakir over Dobbs on the PPR side because I
Okay.
do think he is good for closer to 6 catches, uh, 60 yards, 70 yards, possible touchdown. I feel like Dobbs' biggest thing is he's going to be more touchdown or potential bust.
Okay. So Brandon, the way we'd say it is who we think has the highest floor is Robinson. Highest upside is Shakir. Dobbs is somewhere in the middle. Depending on what you're feeling in terms of what you might need for your lineup, depending on who you're playing, that's how we would stack them up. All right. Booba's saying, I have Ridley and Waddle as my wide receivers right now. I have BTJ on the bench. Should I replace one of them with BTJ or Ramondre in my flex?
Um, boy, I really like BTJ if he's playing. He's he's at stud level for me. So if he's healthy, he's in.
I
Um,
Ridley with Mason Rudolph. Waddle hasn't, you heard for those that are on
right.
earlier, gave my comments on Waddle earlier. Ramondre is an interesting thought, but unless he gets 2 short rushing touchdowns, I'm not so sure. I'm going with BTJ in this one right now. And which
I
one
am
would
too.
you replace, Ridley or Waddle?
Probably Ridley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In
Yeah, I'll
Mason
go with
Rudolph, we do not trust.
we don't trust the Titans. I mean, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, so he did have the big game last week. You would
Well, all
think.
right. Let
Yep,
me
go ahead.
let me throw this into you. So last week we watched Detroit run all over the Titans. Does that change your mind on Ramondre a little bit? And that was with Jeffrey Simmons
Ramondre is no
back in the
Jameer
lineup.
Gibbs. Remember, Gibbs is the one that had the big game, and Ramondre is
That's
not the
true.
one with the breakaway speed. So I'm still going to go with BTJ on this one.
All right.
Okay. All right. Very glad to help out. Glad you've become a regular in joining us, Pachuco TTV, and look forward to seeing you more often. Hey, Sean, can you scroll down to see if the card shop has given us any other options related to golf? Because I want to make sure and double check for that. Okay.
I will get on it.
All right. Thank you, sir. The next question is, who should I start as my wide receiver 2 between BTJ and Devontae? Now, we just talked about our love that we profess for BTJ, and it's not just because I am LSU biased, but Devontae Smith, do like me some Devontae Smith as well, particularly against that Jacksonville defense today.
Yeah, the
I would
Jaguars have not been great.
lean in this case Devontae. Sean?
I understand why this question exists because we have seen Devontae disappear in games, especially a few weeks ago. Uh, I'm going to stick with BTJ. He's still, I think he's already getting at this level where he's automatic start for me, regardless of matchup. He still has that big play ability. He's been racking up touchdowns, but it is close. I'm not going to sit here and pretend it's not. It's
I
the fact is the with AJ Brown being there, it does scare you away from Devontae a little bit, or it does
I
me.
agree. I agree that it's close, and they're both in the late window. So we could find out more about actives and inactives and so forth.
Sure.
And so Gabe Davis has a chance to be inactive. Bigsby might be inactive. Uh, HN might be inactive. BTJ might be inactive. So I might look when it gets closer to the when we find out the inactives for that late window, depending on what the Jacksonville mix is, could lead me towards BTJ or not BTJ and going with Devontae in this case.
If he's
So
the only option on this team later on, you almost have to go away from him because they are going to double, triple team him and make it the Parker Washington show
and Evan Ingram.
and Evan Ingram.
Yep. So right now I'm leaning towards Devontae, and once again, the other reason too at this particular moment is the health reasons, but because of the questionable on BTJ. Okay, very nice comment right here from Cole. Thank you, Cole, very much. Appreciate you becoming a subscriber. Glad to have you as part of the IDP Plus family, and look forward to seeing and hear more from you. That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Tyler Owens, half point PPR, pick 2. Jalen Waddle, Wandale, Lockett, or Mostert. All right, so Lockett's last on the list for me on this one right off the bat.
I'm with you.
Okay, so then that leaves 2.5 PPR. this sort of hurts Wandale's value. So Waddle to me is the first one that I'm playing.
I'm going double Miami myself,
I'm going
just because of
Waddle and
the
Mostert as
touchdown
well.
potential. That touchdown potential for Mostert there inside the red zone to help preserve Achan. That seems to be the play right now.
Yep. So half PPR in particular makes it Waddle and Mostert pretty straightforward to us. Okay. Moving on to Bobby. Okay. What's Seattle linebacker to play if Jones is out? So he is questionable, but everything I've read to this point is that he's supposed to play. So I would assume that they would move Tyrell Dodson back to that position that Jones was in, is more the quote Mike one, inside linebacker one, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
And I would expect Tyrese Knight would be the second linebacker. Would you agree with that, Sean?
absolutely. That's the way it ran before when Baker missed time.
Yep.
I would expect the
So,
same thing.
and then thus in that case, you would go with Dodson over Knight as a result?
Yeah, I expect them to perform about the same. So if you had the option of picking up both, just coin flip. I feel like it's going to be pretty close production wise. But
Okay,
if
we have
Jones is out there, he's absolute start.
agreed. Okay, we have about 10 minutes left. If you could see if there's any super chats just in case, and see if Card Shop came back with a clarified question.
And
Uh,
nothing.
Nothing. Okay, great. Jason Ortiz is asking, Madison, Stevenson, or Eckler? With Brian Robinson being out, my quick answer is Eckler.
I'm right there with you. It feels automatic, especially with his receiving abilities over the others.
Yep. And for me, real quick, as I'm pulling up the next question, who would be your number two, Stevenson or Madison, who averaged like 1.4 yards per carry last week, I believe it was?
I would probably lean Stevenson here just because of that Tennessee defense not being the greatest. I feel like he could stumble into a touchdown or two.
All right, folks, and I just want to make sure that we're being fair to everybody. We have a number of people still viewing and all, so if you want to get your question answered within the next 8 to 15 minutes, use the super chat. Otherwise, we're going to be heading down the list in the order they came in, and we may not get to everybody. So just so you know, okay, just want to be transparent with everybody.
Yeah,
Okay,
we're not staying 30 minutes over today. So
actually, it was 40 minutes over, and I know you have a
40
personal
minutes over.
situation you
Yeah.
have to take care of this week, so completely understand that. Um, Okay, so this is Sal. If you're willing to break down this question further, when we start having this much, it's a little bit too much, man. I know it's a must win, but please make the questions a little bit shorter to help us out, okay? Because we have so many we want to get to. So Charlie is asking a lot of BTJ questions. BTJ or James Conner in a full PPR? So Arizona against that Chicago defense or BTJ?
Man, I still want to take Brian Thomas.
I do as well. I think the Bears' run defense is going to be a challenge this week. And so, assuming BTJ is active, that's who I'm rolling with as well. Standardly, Nix or Carr for Leo. Welcome, Leo. I don't think we've seen you here before, but welcome. To me, this is a no-brainer. Even Carr against the Panthers. Oh, I'm going Nix on this one, man.
His rushing ability sets him above Carr, and Carr coming back first game after injury, we don't know what that's going to look like yet.
And Baltimore's pass defense has, for all their
Been
reputation,
suspect. Yeah.
it is very suspect, and their pass rush is suspect as well. So Nix is a no-brainer on this one. Okay, so going down. NK, Jay Reed, BTJ, or Tank? So we're back to that Detroit Green Bay game, or Brian Thomas, or Tank's already played. Oh, Tank Bigsby. Tank Bigsby.
Right.
I was thinking Tank Dell for a second.
Boy, I do like Bigsby. I am worried about his injury though. So I'm looking more at the receivers here. I do love me some Brian Thomas. Jaden Reed has been very productive though. That Lions secondary isn't the greatest. And worried about
J-
Jordan Love though.
Jaden Reed or Brian Thomas are almost a coin toss for me.
Yeah.
And in that, when it's like that for me, then I'm going to go with the healthier person to go with Jaden Reed on this one, particularly against the Detroit secondary.
I'll follow with you, but it is close.
It's really close. Bigsby is last for me on this one. Because
Yeah.
okay, we're aligned on that. Okay, Matthew Bump, welcome Matthew. Ferguson or Pitts?
Oh boy. This one feels kind of close as well, and they are playing against each other today. Um, boy, I think I want to go with Pitts. I think he's had the hotter hand as of late.
Yeah, Ferguson's been more the Wandale Robertson with 5 catches for 32 yards kind of thing. Um, the Dallas
Yeah, that's
offense is
true.
struggling, though I do expect a better outing today, but I don't necessarily see it being CD. I see a lot of it going to CD Lamb. I think Pitts has a big game against this Cowboys defense, so I'm going with you with Pitts as well. Okay, so up is NK. Welcome, NK. Uh, he has Kittle and Bye. He's got Hunter Henry. Is there someone else? NK, there might be, but without having any names, it's too hard to speculate and guess who might be on your waiver wire. In the future, I'd recommend give us like the one or two options you're considering on the waiver wire to pick up. Hunter Henry isn't a bad option for this week, though.
I'm fine with Hunter this week. He has pretty good chemistry with Drake May, and the Titans are terrible.
Okay. Okay. Ramondre or Mooney, PPR.
Give me Mooney to the moon.
Mooney to the
PPR.
moon as well against
Yep.
Dallas, particularly even though Diggs is supposed to play, he does have that bad ankle situation. So I am going with Mooney as well. Okay, Matthew is asking Kyler or Dak. Would we change our mind? I think we had Kyler or Love, and now he's asking Kyler or Dak. I'm
I
definitely
think
playing
I'll
Kyler over Dak.
you playing Kyler over Dak. You don't
Yep.
think this is going to be a big shootout?
I do, but right now I'm not trusting Dak as much as I'm trusting Kyler right now.
Yeah, the rushing yards really separate.
Yeah,
That's what I see anyway.
that's a great point. Jerry Jones said something to Dak. I read an article this week, I think it was on The Athletic once again, so I want to give him credit, where Dak is not running nearly as much, and supposedly it's coming from Jones and worried about a risk of injury, which was interesting. So without Dak getting those rushing TDs and extra rushing yards, I'm definitely going with Kyler. Okay. Back to
Super
Cole's
chat.
question from earlier. We got a super chat. Okay, I'll let you pull it up in a second for me, okay?
Go
Even
ahead.
with the rain, I'm still not concerned with golf on that one, Cole. Okay. All right. Pull up the super chat, Senor.
There we go. Or was. Let's try it again. There we go.
Thank you,
Don
Don
Mack.
Mack. PPR pick two.
PPR.
Sutton, Ramondre, Cedric Tillman, or Jalen Reed in PPR.
Cedric Tillman was fantastic for us last week. I know a lot of people fell in love with that. Jameis Winston taking over. I'm ready to play him again. I know the matchup isn't as good, um, but this whole team is different when Winston is in there. So I think he's my first pick.
So Winston's interceptions to me doesn't impact Tillman. It goes back to when he threw 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. He's going to keep on chucking it, and
Right.
Tillman is his guy. So Tillman, I am with you on number one. And as much as I do like Nick's earlier with that Sean Payton offense, going back to even when he was with my beloved Saints way back when, the star of the show each week changed, and Sutton's had some real goose eggs and all. I
Yes.
like Tillman and I like Reed against this Lions team
Exactly.
right now.
Right.
So Don Mack, the good news is we are both aligned on this one with Tillman and Reed. Okay,
Yeah,
keep an
we
eye out for
expect these
this.
two to be the stars today for sure.
Okay,
I'm on
good
it.
deal. All right, keep an eye on those super chats for me, because what it does when I check, it sends me back to the top of the list, and I have to scroll back down.
I do too.
Okay, hey Zane For trade questions, we're going to try and do start sit in the show here. So if you could come to our Discord and ask a question in Discord, we'd be happy to help you in the Discord. Okay. Well, here's one I accidentally missed. Full PPR, Leo, Keon Coleman, Keenan Allen, Bucky Irving, or Tank Bigsby. He needs a wide receiver and a flex. So the wide receiver, Coleman or Allen?
Oh boy. I kind of want to go with Coleman's upside. I know I've been down on him here earlier, and we do think DJ Moore is kind of the main guy there in Chicago. So I'll take Coleman over Allen.
I'm with you.
And boy, this next one, I think it's going to come down to Bucky Irvin's receiving abilities over Tank Bigsby's. I'm leaning Bucky.
I'm going Bucky as well. Tucker was kind of the third leg of the stool, but really didn't impact the first two. I'm going with Bucky. They seem like they're saving him in practice to play him in the games, even with that toe. I'm going with Bucky. All right, we are aligned
Got
there.
two more super chats.
All right, pull them up, sir.
First one, start two. Calvin Ridley, Zay Flowers, BTJ, or David Njoku.
Ooh, very interesting. We were just talking about Winston, how he likes to chuck it for sure, which makes Njoku interested. We talked early in the show how we're not worried about Deontay Johnson impacting Flowers. The Browns' defense isn't quite as stout as it was, and we got the BTJ injury situation. But love BTJ. Ridley's number 4 on the list because of Mason Rudolph. We agree with that?
I think so.
Okay, so that narrows it down to the other 3. I think I'm going with the 2 receivers in the middle, Flowers and BTJ.
Yeah, I'm worried about Cedric Tillman, even Elijah Moore getting more action than David Njoku. Just because Winston, he throws a lot, but he does spread it out a fair amount, more so to the receivers.
Yeah, that has been his history to not throw it to the tight ends as much. Even though Njoku did have a good week. It almost feels like there was such a great week for tight ends because it was National
Yeah.
Tight End Day last Sunday, that there's going to be a negative regression for tight ends this week. So Flowers and BTJ are the 2 that I think we're going with. Final answer?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay. Let's go to the other super chat.
Bobby Stevens. We got Keon Coleman, Jacoby Myers, Cedric Tillman as his flex.
Okay, so we got Minshew Mania for Jacoby Myers. Are we really trusting that against the Bengals? The Bengals have not had a great defense. Myers is your lowest upside play on this one.
I think so too.
So for me, then, I'm going Tillman or Coleman. We've talked a lot about Coleman. We just talked a lot about Tillman. 2 really good choices. I have to admit, I am leaning towards the Jameis throwing it around. I think Baltimore's offense would do well in this game, and I think Cleveland will have to be chasing, and I think it's going to be good for Cedric Tillman.
I like Tillman as well. Coleman, he feels more boomer bust, where it's going to have to be the big plays, the big shots to really rack up some yards. He's not really your PPR kind of guy. Jacoby Myers feels like he could get a handful of catches, possibly not enough yards. Also, Brock Bowers is the number 1 option on that team. And Cedric Tillman is the number 1 guy on the Browns right now. He's my pick.
Yeah. Bobby, I think Sean and I are aligned. We are going to go with Cedric Tillman on that one. Okay, do we have any more super chats?
That's all for now.
Okay, we're going to hit 1 or 2 more questions, and we will call it a wrap then. 6-man league PPR, pick 2, Malik, Tyreek, Apuka. I'm going with the 2 healthy ones, Malik and Tyreek. Agree?
Absolutely, first 2. Yep.
All right. Okay, Matthew Bump. He's a smart man. Whatever you do, don't sit BTJ. As long as he's healthy, I agree with you, man.
I've said him once or twice. It didn't pan out for me.
Okay, here's another one here. I accidentally jumped around here. Eckler or Tony Pollard B-Rob out, particularly with B-Rob out and Pollard kind of unhealthy. I'm going Eckler on this one.
Yeah, I want Eckler in this matchup.
Okay, Matthew Bump. I like to do the shout outs of the shout outs. And Matthew says, you guys were a great help. Thank you. Happy to help out. Glad to have y'all here. Glad to help out so many more people. Okay. Legends asking, can Cade Otton be a tight end this week?
Yeah,
He
they
is
have
a
nothing else.
tight end. Yeah.
He's been a good option since Evans and Godwin have been injured. And the Chiefs are actually giving up the most points to tight ends, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, I'm firing him up.
You are correct. Okay, PPR pick tight end in 3 flex. Ferguson, Pitts, and Henry. And then 3 flex. Okay, so in the interest of time, Rochita, if you can narrow it down to one question in the future and maybe break them up, that'll be helpful because we are past our time and all. So I apologize for that, man. And last comment. Well, one other question, then we'll do one comment. Okay, the question is, what about China or Eckler? And he actually meant Chuba. He clarified it on the next one. Chuba or Eckler at the flex with Bryce Young at quarterback, as we talked about earlier. I think I'm going Eckler on this one with Robinson out. You agree?
Yeah, his catching ability is, I think, what separates him here. It's Eckler.
Okay. It's all good. Sorry for that. Yeah, thank you, man. In the future, we're happy to answer questions. Try and get in a little bit earlier, too, if you have some of these complicated questions. And then Stephen Miles saying, unreal advice, keep up the good work. Thank you, Stephen, and glad to have you on board. Look forward to seeing you next week. And then Rochita, last one, and then I know you have to go for personal reasons, and so we're going to wrap it up with this one. Waddle or McConkey? This is a tough one. And yeah, and for the record, for the folks to know, he is a Dolphins man, just so y'all know.
I'm a Dolphins fan, so it hurts. I think McConkey's the answer here. I think he gives you more upside than Waddle does right now.
They are really close for me.
It's the touchdowns. How many does Waddle have?
Yeah, I'm going to go with McConkey as well with that. All right, with that, folks, we're going to call it a wrap. Thank you all for all the great questions. Thank you for those super chats. Thanks for all the kind words. Rochita just typed in he's a Dolphins fan as well, so he was probably biased.
So he hurts as well.
Exactly. But hey, join us at IDP Plus. Subscribe to our website. Come to our YouTube channels. Go to our YouTube IDP Plus betting channel. Win you some money. Join me for the IDP Plus advice show on Wednesday morning. You're going to get some great info for those that have been around following IDP Plus. If you think about that monster article we used to do, this is like the monster article on steroids for those of you that are familiar with it. Sean, final comments as we head on out, buddy.
Another good thing, if you subscribe to the website, you have access to our Discord channel. We have a channel in there just for start sits all day, every day of the week. So if you didn't get your question answered, you want to jump in there right now, we'll have guys in there active. So come check us out.
Exactly right. And so with that, we'll call it a wrap because I know Sean needs to go. Blessings to everyone. Hope everybody's healthy and safe. Be kind to one another, and y'all take care. Bye, folks.